Hello, how are you doing today? I was just thinking about things, was reminiscing about some of the loneliness that it's like to be an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Depression, bitterness, anxiety. These are some of the things that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have to deal with. For instance, loneliness, it's a state of distress or discomfort that results when we have a gap in our desire for social connection and the actual experience. So, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, you leave the religion and you actually have to leave everything, all your family members and everything. So, therefore, you have no friends and you will experience loneliness. Bitterness is the anger and the disappointment of being treated unfairly or the resentment that comes with that. So every time we think of it, we can get bitter. It's a disappointment. And bitterness is almost always directed towards someone or something that has happened. And a great way to address it is focus on yourself instead of stewing in anger. Focus on improving yourself, doing more things you like. You'll find that your bitterness will subside when you focus on self-care. So there's a lot to be said for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses when dealing with some of these emotions leaving. Depression is another serious mood disorder that can affect a person's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, sense of well-being. So if you're feeling sad, anxious, irritable, you find you have a loss of interest in activities, trouble sleeping or waking up too early, changes in appetite, aches, pains, headaches, stomach problems, difficulty concentrating, or feeling guilty. You leave the religion so you feel guilty. In fact, you're made to feel guilty. You're made to feel like a sinner for leaving. You're made to feel worthless for leaving. So that comes with it. A whole heap of that is piled onto you. And then the last point here is thoughts of suicide or self-harm. So these are feelings of depression. So there's coping skills. What can we do? Well, staying in touch with people, being more active, facing fears. As an XJW, we have all these fears of everything. Birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, any holiday. We never celebrated any holidays, so we come out, we're fearful of some of these things. Um, Maybe we'll go to a birthday party and someone will get their head chopped off or something like that one time in the Bible. And these are some of the fears that Jehovah's Witnesses have. What about limiting alcohol consumption? These are some coping skills. Not drinking more alcohol, but limiting. You see, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, many of the Jehovah's Witnesses had to drink. Many of them were borderline alcoholics, including myself. So getting out, I had to limit. In fact, there came a day I just threw it all away and I quit completely. So that can help you to cope. Eating a healthy diet and having a routine, going for a walk every day, exercising. These are all areas that can really help. Anxiety is another area that occasional anxiety is normal, but if we have anxiety disorder where it doesn't go away and it gets worse over time, we might need some help. Might have to go see our doctor, psychologist. So if we're feeling nervous, restless, or tense, we have this sense of danger, doom. Maybe Armageddon's coming and we're stuck, we're going to die. If we're feeling like that, it's serious. It's a serious disorder. Having an increased heart rate, breathing rapidly, hyperventilating, sweating, trembling, sweaty palms, feeling weak or tired, trouble concentrating or thinking. These are all signs of anxiety. And maybe we're thinking about whatever happened at the Kingdom Hall, whatever got us disfellowshipped or disassociated or whatever we are, or however we became an ex-Jehovah's Witness, it was probably traumatic. And any time that three elders gang up on you, and bully you into moving a certain way that they want you to move. It's a form of bullying. You're gonna you're gonna experience anxiety every time you relive that event because it never goes away. That's the last event you remember leaving that organization, other than being cut off from everyone. So, an anxiety disorder may lead to social isolation, clinical depression, and it can impair a person's ability to work, study, and to do routine activities. And it may also hurt relationships with friends, families, and colleagues. And it's common for depression and anxiety to happen at the same time. So, what else happens? Well, disassociation. If you just decide to quit, walk away like I did, it's disassociation. They view it differently. I'm going to pull up the elders book and show you. But first of all, we'll look here. Here's what it means. It's a disconnection between a person's thoughts, memories, feelings, actions, and a sense of who he or she is. This is a normal process that everyone has experienced. So in jw.org, disassociation means that it's an action taken by a baptized individual in the congregation who no longer desires to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, in other words, if you no longer want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you're disassociating yourself. Um, they're saying it's like you're disconnecting from the real world. So the real world to them is Jehovah's Witnesses. So they have kidnapped this name, disassociation, and they've used it in a sense that's not in the dictionary, but they use it to describe a person when he leaves. And they use it for their benefit because it's a disconnection. And that's not what a person's necessarily intending when they leave. They're not intending to disconnect from their family and friends. You see, the word disassociation is a punishment word that the elders put upon you. And then they advertise that to the congregation that you are now disassociated. It's equal to disfellowshipping. They use the S77 form, the same form that you use for a disfellowship person, you use for a disassociated person. So it's a bad word in the organization. In fact, it's a worse thing to happen to you if you voluntarily leave. It's worse because no one's ever going to come back and phone you and say, hey, you want to come back. You see, when you're disfellowshipped, theoretically, in their eyes, you're still in their flock. You're still potentially going to come back. You're just waiting out the time to be a good little boy or girl, to conform to the elders' directions, and then come back. That's disfellowshipping. You're actually a step up. But when you're disassociated and you made that decision to quit, you're done. They're not coming for you. So it's like you're giving yourself a death sentence in the religion. And that's kind of how it is in the elders' book. They'll go on to say that actions may indicate, make a known a firm decision to be known no longer as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. If you join another religion, you automatically are disassociated. And if you willingly or unrepentantly accept blood, you've disassociated yourself. And if you take a course that violates Christian neutrality, you've disassociated yourself. And the coordinator of the body of elders should approve this announcement, and the elder reads it to the congregation. The name of the person is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what's advertised. You're treated like a disfellowship person. And since it's taken by the publisher rather than the committee, there's no arrangement for an appeal. No one's coming back for you. You're done. That's the end of this whole chapter. Then they get into reinstatements, and if you're disassociated, you can get reinstated. It's like a disfellowship person. You got to pay the penance. You got to come back to the meetings and so on and so forth. So now, when I look on JW.org today, you get this. And when you go down a bit there, you get that. Battle loneliness by helping others. So I clicked on that, and that's what inspired me to make this video. Because they're talking about loneliness and how to battle it. But yet they themselves are creating loneliness amongst their own members, amongst people that are just leaving. and they're creating an environment that causes depression and loneliness, anxiety, and all kinds of other medical problems. So here's what they say. They don't say much how to battle loneliness, helping others, but this is more of a public information. Their PID department needs this out because they're dealing with, they're being called out on shunning in Norway and in other countries around the world. So they're being called out because they're shunning children, and children can't deal with loneliness. Adults can hardly deal with it. So, but here they are saying that the U.S. National Institute of Health, well, we're going to take a look at the National Library of Medicine. We can play that same game. So they say the U.S. National Institute of Health says helping others in need can give meaning to our lives. So what they're saying is they go door to door and they're helping all kinds of people, and that's how they're helping people to combat loneliness. But on the other hand, they're shunning, disfellowshipping anybody that decides they don't want to be a part of the religion, or they want to have a blood transfusion to keep living. They get disassociated and they create loneliness. Unscriptural loneliness, by the way. The Bible talks about all kinds of reasons why what JW.org is doing is not scriptural, because there's nothing in the scriptures that says you should shun a man that just quits going to church. You know, I have not seen that. So if you've seen that and you're a Jehovah's Witness, please put it in the comments so I can see it. But I have not seen that yet, that you're allowed to shun a man who just quit going to church, treating him like a disfellowship person, a murderer, a thief, a greedy person, a fornicator, an adulterer, a guy that just quit going to church, just quit going to your meetings. Well, maybe that's a bit of my own bitterness, but I still have not seen that in the Bible. But yet, here we go. We're dealing with all this loneliness created by this religion. So here they're saying invest in others, look for ways to help people. Well, they could help their own members, family members. So you got mothers that can't talk to sons, daughters that can't talk to fathers, and so on and so forth. They've split families apart with their shunning policy, and everyone obeys it because they're afraid that they will get shunned if they also talk to someone else that is supposed to be shunned. So that's how it works in the religion. In my opinion, they don't have the freedom of speech to write this article and to put it out to the world because they're creating loneliness, unjustified loneliness within thousands and thousands and thousands of their own members each year, each day. Each day, there's thousands of people being disfellowshipped all over the earth. Okay, well, we're going to move forward. I want to show you a little bit on this National Library of Medicine. And this is a huge study. I'm going to pin it in the article. They've done a lot of work. This is done by some university students. It talks about it and how they did this. And there's a whole thing there where look a little bit in the introduction. They talk about the religion, the founders, Russell, so on and so forth. Well, it says 66% of those raised as JWs no longer identify with the group, and that 65% of all adult JWs converted into the faith. So 66 of those that are raised, they don't want to be in it, and that 65% of all adults converted don't want to be in it. It's the lowest retention rate out there. Muslims have the highest retention rate, by the way. So while it is difficult to ascertain variable statistics, this work implies that many people appear to leave the faith. And it's because of the strict moral codes. There are prohibition that includes sex outside of marriage, masturbation, pornography, homosexuality, gambling, drugs, tobacco use, and all of the holidays in the calendar, by the way. It wasn't mentioned in here. They risk being disfellowshipped for any of these things if they get into a elders meeting. We talked about that. So I want to go right down to the conclusions of this study. It's a long study, but we're just going to read the one paragraph. It says, in conclusion, This study sought to investigate qualitatively the experiences of former JWs to contribute a better understanding of how individuals transition out of the JWs and how this impacted their sense of who they are and their place in the world, and pointing to theoretical commonalities with the desistance of recovery literature. Findings indicate that experiences of ostracism can be associated with diminished mental health, particularly among those socialized into the JWs from infancy, and subsequently disfellowshipped. And findings also indicate that having a sense of agency in establishing new online social connections may help mitigate adverse consequences. So there you go, folks. What we're doing online, mental health is saying is helping ExJWs. So we invite you to join our channel. We have a lot happening. Wednesday nights we have things happening. You can come on live with Joe and Fran. Fridays we do the news, and we have different programs throughout the week. So please subscribe if you haven't already, and we look forward to getting to know you a little better on our channel. So this social connection, it really helps. And if you have a chance, get on our Discord channel. And the Discord channel is designed, there's real therapists on there. It's free of charge for everyone. You just have to join. There will be a link in this video. And the Discord channel is helping so many people out there regain their sense of identity and finding out who they are and moving forward out of the rut of becoming an XJW. How do you get out of there? So what is it? It takes a little bit of work, but reaching out and these social connections, they're so vital. And they'll help mitigate adverse consequences. Future research to unpick how these factors interact over time is warranted, and as a better understanding of religious exits is likely to have implications for effective on and offline supportive provisions. So that's what this study is about, helping. This is particularly for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So that would be for me and for you if you are an ex-Jehovah's Witness. So thanks again for sticking with us and on this subject. It's a timely subject. It doesn't have to be as sad at first when we're dealing with all this, but once we start to get out, it can be actually quite phenomenal. And in fact, Friday, just yesterday, we had on our news, and we're doing that every night on our news. We're doing Friday night news. And after the news, we have an entertainment section. And this is where some XJWs are coming out of the woodwork, and they have all these talents, singing, poetry, storytelling, and yet to be seen. So join us, especially Friday nights. You'll enjoy that show. But join the channel for all of the lives. And I think it's the lives that really is something that helps people to not be lonely, to have a connection to the community. Well, that's all I have for you today. So till next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.